NaLyssa Smith, a standout in the WNBA, had always been known for her fierce playing style and unyielding commitment to her team, the Indiana Fever. Her energy and enthusiasm were a magnetic force that brought life to every game she played. On and off the court, she was respected for her sharp focus and unwavering team spirit. But no one expected that overseas, in the middle of a heated matchup, the story would take a turn that put her in a direct face-off with Caitlin Clark, a player as fearless as they come. But before we proceed further, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. The overseas game was supposed to be a routine part of the off-season schedule, an opportunity for players to test their mettle and stay sharp before heading back to their primary teams. The arena was buzzing, packed with fans who came to see the best talent clash in a game full of adrenaline and the promise of show-stopping plays. For Smith, this was another chance to hone her craft and push herself beyond limits. For Clark, it was no different. The basketball prodigy was there to play with the kind of confidence that could make even seasoned athletes take notice. From the first whistle, the game had an intensity that hinted things might escalate. Smith was in her usual form, commanding the paint and moving with calculated aggression. Clark, known for her three-point shooting and court vision, was weaving through defenders and firing off shots that left jaws dropping. They were on opposing sides, each leading their team with passion that could ignite a crowd. The tension began to build after a contested rebound. Smith, towering and powerful, grabbed the ball with authority. Clark was right there, her eyes sharp and full of determination. In a swift move, she swept at the ball, aiming for a steal that would turn the tide. Smith, sensing the threat, pulled back, and the moment turned physical. Arms tangled, legs scrambled for balance, and the once fast-moving game seemed to freeze. The two players found themselves chest to chest, eyes locked in a stare that had the crowd holding its breath. It was more than a battle for possession. It was a test of wills. The whistle blew, signaling a foul, but neither player stepped back. Clark, never one to back down from a challenge, flashed a smirk that was both taunting and oddly charismatic. Smith's jaw clenched, a telltale sign that she was as ready as ever to stand her ground. Voices from teammates and referees faded into the background, the world shrinking to just the two of them. Then, in a move that would ripple across social media and sports news, the tension broke into a full-fledged argument. Smith's voice cut through the noise. There was no profanity, no wild gestures, just a steely tone that commanded attention. Clark matched it, her tone edged with competitive fire. For a split second, it looked like a push might come, or that hands would fly, but both players knew better than to let it go that far. The referees stepped in, separating them as the crowd erupted into a mix of cheers, gasps, and murmurs. As they were ushered apart, Smith's expression shifted from raw competitiveness to something more pointed. She took a breath, eyes never leaving Clark. There was a moment there, an unspoken realization that passed between them, one that the cameras couldn't quite capture, but that those in the stands felt like a chill in the air. It was clear. These were two alphas used to leading, now forced to acknowledge the presence of the other. The game resumed, but the energy had changed. Every pass, every shot was charged with a bit more urgency. Smith played with a level of precision that showed she wasn't about to be outdone. Clark, on the other hand, showcased her uncanny ability to shift from heated moments back into seamless play, draining a three-pointer that sent her teammates into a frenzy. The competition between them grew, not in words or gestures, but in the way they played, a quiet duel marked by skill and defiance. As the final buzzer sounded, the scoreboard was almost an afterthought. The real story was the interaction between Smith and Clark. After the game, the locker rooms buzzed with recounts of what had just happened. Teammates spoke in animated bursts, some defending the fire Smith had shown, others marveling at Clark's unshakable poise. But before the chatter could spiral into endless speculation, Smith made a move that left everyone stunned. Rather than retreat into post-game routines or shun the whole incident, Smith did something rare. She sought out Clark. In a moment that spoke to her character, Smith extended a gesture that caught even Clark off guard. She didn't come with apologies or bravado, but with a simple message, a genuine plea for Clark to consider staying with the Fever. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. They had just been involved in a skirmish, yet here was Smith, acknowledging what many had suspected. Clark's presence on the team would be a game-changer. The conversation was brief, but it had weight. Smith, with a look of resolve, shared her thoughts without frills or dramatics. She spoke in her straightforward manner, pointing out what anyone could see, the potential they had together, the power they could wield as teammates. Clark, still absorbing the game's adrenaline, listened with a mixture of curiosity and surprise. There was a pause, a flicker of something like admiration crossing her face before she responded, though her answer remained a mystery. Smith's approach was both surprising and strategic. It spoke volumes about her leadership and her ability to see beyond moments of conflict. She wasn't just a player who thrived in isolation, but one who understood the value of assembling strength. She knew that the Fever needed a spark, and Clark's talent could provide just that. By reaching out, Smith showed she could put ego aside for the good of the team, embodying a commitment that not every athlete could boast. The implications of that brief exchange were significant. The Fever, a team with potential but missing a certain spark, could be transformed by a partnership between Smith and Clark. Smith's message wasn't just a simple request. It was a vision for the future, a calculated move that might convince Clark to consider the offer seriously. The moment was an illustration of how the drive to win could transcend on-court battles and become the glue that bound players together. For Smith, the encounter didn't end with the conversation. The way she returned to her routines spoke of a subtle, simmering determination. Back in training, she practiced with an edge sharper than before. The overseas game had not just been another box to tick on her schedule, it had shifted her perspective. It had shown her what competition, the kind that hits a nerve and sparks real progress, looked like up close. If Clark were to come to the Fever, Smith would be ready, not just as a teammate, but as a leader who had already shown she could meet fire with fire and turn it into fuel. Clark, meanwhile, went back to her training with the memory of that overseas encounter echoing in the back of her mind. Her decision, whatever it would be, now had the added dimension of that encounter, Smith's steady voice and intense eyes lingering as she weighed her next move. Smith's approach might not have been traditional, but it was compelling. It offered a glimpse into what a future alongside her could hold: intense games, shared battles, and maybe, just maybe, championships. The overseas game would be replayed countless times, with pundits dissecting every aspect of the face-off, but the most compelling story remained in that brief exchange after the final whistle. It showed that sometimes the biggest plays aren't made during the game, but in the moments that come after, when a player decides that winning is bigger than any single fight. NaLyssa Smith had made that play, putting herself out there, not to dominate, but to build something greater. Whether or not Clark would join her was another question, but one thing was certain: the Fever had a leader ready to make bold moves. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. We thrive on your feedback, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, keep discovering and stay tuned.